All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hello and welcome to Platos Cave. Coming to you from Australia, the land down under, for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Home to ideas, which is good. Controversial ideas, which is better. Also, importantly, the station does not receive any money from anyone but you, the listener. So if you're good enough to donate, please do. If you have the cash, crypto, or any other form of currency is good. The station greatly appreciates it. Now, but you might not be able to do that, even though Australia had a rate cut today. Ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-bum. But things are still tough, and telling people about the station is also good. Tell people about the station. You can't donate. Don't feel bad. Just spread the word, and more people will listen. Hopefully, to Dave and I, for both Platos Cave and Chinese Head Out, but any of the many other good shows that are on this station. Today is the 18th already of February 2025. And yeah, things are out of control, but we'll talk about that. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, all the time, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace table of digital radio. But you know what? Archives are free too. So if you like to listen to some older stuff, some vintage Revolution Radio, go to the archives and listen to your heart's content. Another good reason to donate or tell people about the station. Before we start broadcasting it to you in anger, we do like to acknowledge the traditional custodians, of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's the Darkenjang,
which means he's nearby. And for me, of course, the Direct people. And we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. I spent a lot of my time on YouTube the last few nights. Oh, and not just YouTube, I went to a few news outlets too. What about yourself, my friend? Have you been looking around, seeing what's happening?
Yeah, I've got to try and find a low-calorie popcorn. Because there's so much going on.
That's the truth.
There is. You know what? There's a new hotspot. Not just Santorini or near Santorini. There's a new hotspot that's opened up. I'm going the wrong direction. I've got to zoom out again. It is. I'll have more details later.
Alrighty.
But it's serious. It's just like the ones that's in the Aegean Sea near Santorini, where they had 6,000 earthquakes, and it's clear by the placement of them that there's a magma chamber of a supervolcano filling up. What's going to happen? I don't know. But there's another one, and I'll get the maps and I'll have it there. We're just reading the news. That's what we are. That's what we do. We collect it all so you don't have to. And I have the warning page up. We don't provide medical advice. We don't do anything at all that goes against any of the streaming policies. And if we do, you might hear a particular kind of language. If our intention is to avoid it, you'll hear that. It'll be obvious. And just a little shout out to those who can now listen to us on Spotify, Rumble, Locals. I've also seen that we're number one on TalkStream Live right now, which is fantastic.
That's pretty good.
You know, YouTube and Facebook as well. We're everywhere you want to be. We're like Jub from The Simpsons. He's everywhere you want to be.
That's the truth.
Now, if we had a comment on one of our videos saying, your accents for whoever the person was, X66 was their titled name, and they were saying that we need to be really close to the mic because our accent is so strong that they hear their accent and not the words. Which is
That's interesting.
It's kind of nice. It was like the lady at KFC when I was at school over in California. Just standing there with her head crooked to the side, her first personal experience with an Australian accent. Oh, those were the days.
Those were the days. That's right. I tell you what, though, I wanted to know what's going on, right? So I had a closer look. How did you actually? It was before you started. When a few years ago, actually a long time ago now, almost 15 years ago, efficiency experts were brought into our company, to consultants essentially.
Yeah, huh?
But that was before you started there. But
I've been in companies where they've come in and done that.
Yeah.
Yes.
What normally happens is the senior consultants in any consultancy firm sell the contract, and then they send in the grads.
That's right.
So the senior consultant is on $20,000 an hour, and you're happy to pay that because they're senior consultants and get your money's worth, etc. You can argue, but still, at least. But then the junior people come in. And when I say junior, I'm talking about fresh out of uni.
They're still in university.
You're paying the same for those.
That's right.
And that didn't really go well at all. And I asked those people not to be in our meetings anymore because they added no value and, in fact, the opposite. Okay, the opposite of value. And this is what really concerns me, and I'll tell you what it is. So first of all, there's this Department of Government Efficiencies that is being run by Elon Musk, and I listened to a very long talk that he gave. I think it was in the UAE or somewhere, but he's on a big screen with a whole bunch of world leaders. It might have been Saudi Arabia, I don't know, but they're all listening. There was a guy moderating, an Arab person on the stage, but he was on a conference call with a big screen presence, right, in a lecture theater. And people, he's talking about what he's doing, etc., etc. And now, I've been, like I said, in corporate life for a long time, right? 25 years now. Longer, actually. Slightly longer. And I've seen many, many, many things. And what I'm seeing now in America, and with the Trump administration specifically, is exactly that. They're running it like a corporation, or they're trying to run it like a corporation. There are a couple of things you need to understand about a corporation. A CEO is not elected. A CEO doesn't ask his staff what they would like to do. There's no election or a referendum on which markets we go after or what we're going to produce. The CEO or similar function within the company sets the direction, and that's it. Okay, you don't like it? Well, you go and work somewhere else. It's okay, right?
It's a broadcast, one to many.
It's a tyranny. Okay, it's not a democracy. It's a tyranny, but that's a company. The company doesn't, wouldn't probably work if you let everybody just do what they wanted and voted on everything. So it is a dictatorship. Okay, the company is a dictatorship, but we all accept that. It's just how it works. And there's no, and corporation is also driven only by one thing, which is to maximize profits. Okay, and even if it's not a shareholders company, then you maximize profits for the owners. Now, the owners could be just a single person or family, or thousands or even millions of shareholders. It doesn't really matter, but maximizing profit is the name of the game. And you do this two ways. One, you can make money. Like you sell stuff, you make stuff, you deliver services, whatever. That's good. Or you save. So you get a certain size workforce, and back then I think we had close to 200,000 people, right? And you can cut the cost. You can let people go. And if you let go of 50,000 people, that's a massive saving, right? And all of a sudden, like say, a new CEO comes in, company's in trouble, he turns the ship around, he fires 50,000 people, all of a sudden the books look fantastic, the market is buoyed, all the analysts are saying what a fantastic job he's doing, share prices rise, and the company is a success in the eyes of the market. Doesn't really matter what they make or don't make, but their books and their relative value, as opposed to what they actually do in the world, the value on the share market goes up enormously. That's what happens, right? Now you achieve this by, like I said, you can get rid of people, and how and that's probably possible because there's always waste and efficiencies to be gained. What it means is that the remaining people will they will have to work harder. And I've lived through it, so I'm not just talking out of my backside here. Right? So the remaining people will work harder, and some of the things that were done maybe onshore and now done offshore, much cheaper by people with much lower salaries, or they have been automated, meaning there are no people at all, or they're AI driven, which is even more efficient or palatable because AI sort of tries to emulate human characteristics, right? So it's not a bad thing for service desks and such. So that's what happens, right? You bring on, and that's exactly what Elon Musk was talking about. He wants to, get rid of all these people, and the numbers that are being bandied about is 200,000 employees in the federal sector, right? That's a lot, and he wants to replace them with AI and other efficiency measures. He doesn't want those jobs to still exist, right? The function he wants to be done by a machine, and AI is a good, I guess, a good way to do it. Automation, which is slightly different, or scripting, slightly different again. You can do it, through those avenues as well. And just the impact of having 200,000 people and maybe more out of work in the market would, well, number one, it would depress the economy because those people wouldn't be spending much anymore. And 200,000 people of working age with families and mortgages and normal expenditures, you take them out of the market, even out of a 300 million people economy, that you'll feel it. You'll feel it. So there's an impact there. And then there's an impact on the people that are still left, right? And they might leave because they're overworked or whatever. So, all up, there might be 300,000 or 400,000 people that decide, what, this is not worth it. So I'll get out. There's an even bigger impact. But the decision to do this, and that's why I talked about consultants earlier. Do you know who the staff of Doge are, Dave?
Yeah, they're young, the ones savant, the young kids.
No, they're graduates that work at X. Young graduates in their late teens, early 20s that don't know their elbow from their backsides, and they're being put in there. And I need to be maybe more detailed here. People used to come in with spreadsheets into the company, and in the morning we get a call from the States because I work for an American company. And the people would, the human resources people in the States would send us a list of people that we would have to let go that day. Mm-hmm. And then that's what would happen, right? And the only criteria here were job titles and salary levels. Nothing else. There was no back and forth. There was no discussion. Mm-hmm. There was no talking about are these people valuable or not. No, this was just job title and salary level. And that's what these kids are doing now. These kids are going into these agencies anywhere now, everywhere, whatever, and getting access to data. Now, the thing now that's normal consultancy practice, by the way, okay? The thing that worries me is this. Neither Elon Musk nor his people in Doge are security cleared. Not one of them has been vetted. We don't know anything about them. We don't know if they are, techno-anarchists or whatever, and that you would take the data they find and then sell on the dark web or not. It's the thing, right? We don't know. We don't know. Because they are completely unknown entities, right? And Elon Musk himself hasn't been vetted either, right? He's just the richest man in the world. Okay, well, there you go. He's the richest man in the world. So Americans, if I were you, I'd be really worried because I've lived through corporate downsizing like this. It's brutal, it's ruthless, right? And it usually breaks the company, which was what happened to us, and then we have to rebuild it. But there was a period of probably of pain, maybe 3 or 4 years of pain, of real pain, to get the work done. You'll get through it, but that's in a company. Now, in a country, it's slightly different. Especially in a country that says it's run by a democratic process. So, do you know why Donald Trump is signing executive orders, Dave?
Yeah, because,
okay.
Well, I know that it circumvents going through the Senate. That's
And
right.
Congress.
And Congress. But it also makes something happen quicker.
Yeah,
because
but
it doesn't have that. Yeah, sure, it doesn't have the due diligence of debate,
no,
right?
no. It's actually illegal. So so I don't know if you know how politics in America work, but Congress holds the purse strings, right? Congress pays for stuff. Congress allocates budgets. That's what Congress does. The Senate passes laws after they've been, gone through Congress and go to the Senate, and then they go to the president to be executed. It's a process. So if Congress creates an agency, then only Congress can get rid of that agency, and that's why we're seeing everything that Donald Trump has signed off in that respect is in court now, because it's actually illegal for him to simply disband an agency. Okay, I'm not saying that I agree with it or don't agree with it. I'm just talking about from an American constitutional point of view, what he's doing, shutting down agencies, is illegal. He should be able to, look for efficiencies, absolutely, right? But shutting down agencies is not within the remit of an executive order. Now, the problem is this. Even if the next president, if there is one after Donald Trump, were to rescind the executive orders, and let's say the executive orders, they win in court, for argument's sake, right? And we get to US aid is gone, and Department of Education. Do you know what the Department of Education is going to be gone, Dave, in America? They're going to be rid of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's going to go to the states rather than have another agency telling the states what to do.
Because it really works well that way, right?
Well,
look.
Well, we have it that way.
Not quite. There are federal standards. We do have federal standards.
We have a Federal Standards Bureau, right, for education standards, K-12,
Correct.
yes.
Correct.
But as far as giving an agency the money for them to then distribute that amongst the states, I think that's the shortcut they want to do. Just give it straight to the states.
Not quite, but that's okay. That's okay. That's going to go. So, if there were a president after this one, if there were one, the person would come in and find that the damage done to the workings of the government. And remember what I just said. When we did it for a corporation, which had about 200,000 employees all up, right? It took about 3 or 4 years to get right, to become right again. And I don't think we ever really fully recovered from it. And certainly a lot of people, left that took a lot of IP with it. In a country of 300 million, where you get rid of 200,000, maybe more people out of the workforce that is running it, essentially, right, on a federal level, the damage will take decades to repair. So if you're in America right now, and I'm talking to my wife's family as well, get out. I advise you to get out, because the things that I've seen, and I've spent a lot of time looking at every angle and at every side of this, right? The billionaires have taken over America. They're doing what they want illegally or unconstitutionally, I should be more to the point. And they're not going to stop. Since Trump came into power, do you know how much richer that Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Musk became? How much richer since he was sworn in?
No clue.
$256 billion richer between the three of them. Between the three of them. Is there conflict in interest here? What I'm seeing, and again, I'm not American, I don't live in America. There are global repercussions for all of this, and we're seeing them play out now. If you still think, if you really believe that Donald Trump, if you're working class stiff, like Dave and I, right? We work for a living. I worked with my hands. I worked on building sites when I was younger, right? I've got an office job now, sure enough, but I still work. If you think that this man is going to look out for you, you've got another thing coming. He's not. He knows exactly who he's looking after. his billionaire buddies, which is what he's doing, right? He wants to bring in massive tax cuts, but these tax cuts can't be paid for unless you cut somewhere else, right? Like Medicare or Medicaid, I think it's called in the States, or other things, educational programs, etc., etc. So in order to enable the tax cuts for the super wealthy, the middle to lower income classes are going to, well, pay the bill, just like they did in 2008 when the banks were bailed out. So the Democrats aren't any better. I'm not saying that the Democrats are the solution here, right? Let's be very clear. Obama did something just as heinous and despicable when he bailed out the banks, right? Just to be very clear. This is not Republican bashing or Democrat supporting at all. I think the whole system is screwed. I think the whole system is ready to collapse in on itself. But the speed with which this is happening, again, always, thinking that they might get through the courts or not. Look, it depends. We'll see what the courts will do, right? It's really something to behold. And it is really the oligarchs taking over. Am I surprised? Not really. It happened at the end of the 19th century as well. Just at the turn of, like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where you had the four robber barons, they were called, becoming immensely rich. Some of the Westinghouse as well. There's some others. So it's not new. It's not new. What I find astounding, though, is that now it's having global ramifications as well. So what America does in America is, look, hey, you guys do what you want. It's your country. But Trump is going to take over Gaza. Trump is having talks with Putin without the Ukraine in Saudi Arabia about the peace that will come, I'm sure, right? And he sends his real estate buddy from New York, who's also a billionaire, to negotiate. Is it just me, Dave? It's always something amiss. These are people that know how to make deals, yes, in a commercial environment, not in a diplomatic environment. Russia is very clear on what it wants. And the only reason that Putin would have come to the table is because he knows that Donald Trump is going to give him what he wants, which is essentially what he has, what he took from the Ukraine, right? And keep it. That's it. That's because Putin doesn't get that. He's finished. He has lost close to 1 million people, right? Injured, dead, including North Koreans now. And that is a massive expenditure of people. And if you have even the slightest notion that these politicians and leaders of nations have any interest in their people, then just this number of sending 1 million people, like they were called meat waves, into Ukrainian bullets, or well, I guess the Western bullets now, without any qualm. He doesn't care. He emptied the prisons in Russia. They sent him to the front. If you survive, I think it was 3 months. If you survive three months, you're free. Mm-hmm. You're good to go. And a lot of these
very few of those people made it.
Quite a lot made it back. Quite a lot, actually. You'd be surprised. I did some research into it, and they themselves are posing a whole new problem in Russia, in that they're committing crimes because they're violent offenders, and that is now such a bad problem that RT is reporting on it. Right? RT is reporting on it, saying that these returned soldiers, which are ex-prisoners, violent offenders, etc., are killing and I guess hurting Russian citizens. And they don't care because they go back to prison. They just go back to the front. They have to survive another 3 months. And this is actually what one of the guys said. He said, well, I'll do what I want, kill, rape, whatever. They might catch me, but then I'll just go back to the front. Survive another 3 months, and I'll get to do what I want to do anyway, kill people. That's brilliant. Right? So that's actually, okay, that's where Putin is in his head. And there's no way he would go back to his people and say, we've given all the Ukrainian territories back. Yeah, we lost 1 million people, and probably more now. But that's just how it goes. And these numbers, and Trump is right. These numbers are haven't been seen since World War II. These losses, these kinds of in a war zone. It's been going for 3 years now. So the entire situation is really seen. Then you've got tariffs on top of that, which is another interesting thing, right? And that's something that is affecting Australia for sure if these tariffs come through, especially on iron ore and aluminium and steel and so forth. So that's going to affect us. It's going to affect China, and if it affects China, it'll affect us in Australia because our biggest trading partner is China. Banan. Our biggest trading partner is China. And he said he wants Canada to be the 51st state, and he said he wants to take Greenland by force if necessary, and he wants to also take the Panama Canal. I mean, I think these things, he really wants to do that. He wants to do it. And because he sees himself, and he's supported by his, administration, by his people that he appointed, he sees himself not as president. He doesn't see himself as president at all. He sees himself as the CEO of America. The CEO of America. All right? Now, a CEO, again, I've said it before, that's the tyrant. It's a dictator. Because that's how a corporation works. And that's how Donald Trump sees America. It's a corporation. I'm just going to, these are the things I have to do to make it great again. There'll be some pain, but in the long term, it'll all work out well. Hurrah! If I had a dollar for every time I heard a senior executive say this, I'd be able to retire right now. Okay. And if I had another dollar for every time that wasn't true, I would have retired 10 years ago. So this is the situation we're in. This is where we find ourselves in a very difficult situation because while look, you know how I feel about billionaires, right? 100 billionaires at the bottom of the ocean, a good start. I feel the same way about politicians and our political system. I think two-party systems don't work. We need independence. And in Australia, luckily, that's sort of slowly happening, where we get more and more independence in government.
There's only $3 something per voter that the independent gets as money.
Yeah, I know.
That's
well, I agree. But that's the party political system. The two big parties
supports the big parties because there's no money in it for anybody else.
Correct. They locked it up.
Right. Yeah.
They locked it up, and that's why I want to see more and more independence. Now what I do, I always vote independent in every election. I can tell you this. I don't mind saying this. I vote independent in every single. Not for a Muppet, right? I want to know something about the candidate before I cast my vote. But I think it is critical for a healthy democracy, and certainly in these times now, because our political systems were built and I guess put up in a time that is no longer even resembling what is happening today. The world we live in is very different to 100 years ago, when most of these political systems, were sort of established. The way, the uncertainty, the technology, the economics, the globalism, all of these things, and in fact, not only that, but the very makeup in Australia, certainly, and in other countries now as well, increasingly, the makeup of our population is completely different. 100 years ago, Australia was white, was lily white, right? Anyone in power, anyone in any position of authority was white. And not only white, but probably Anglo-Saxon white, right? Now that changed after World War II, and then certainly after the Vietnam and Korea wars and so on and so forth. And now Australia is extremely racially diverse, certainly ethnically very diverse. And there are problems with it, and there are positives with it, like in anything. But the system that we have no longer reflects that reality. In the same way that the UN no longer reflects the reality of world politics. I said it before, the UN Security Council consists of France, Great Britain, Russia, right, US, and China. Now, by rights, France should be out of there, right? You could argue for Great Britain, but not really. The countries that should be in there. Now, there's no representation from Africa. and there's no representation from South America, right? China is there, so that's Asia represented to some extent, but India should be there, right? Because it's 1.4 billion people here, hello, and there should be a representative from, or I don't know, a country from that is in the Security Council from Africa, and there should be one from South America as well, in my opinion, right? And that would reflect better what's going on geopolitically today. And they also have to change the veto rights and how things are done voting, and all member states need to pay. And it's true, America paid the most of anyone. But America did this for the last 80 years, let's say, because they wanted to be influencing the world. They wanted to ensure that they were the most dominant power in the world, to be defining themselves first against Russia, and then against I guess terrorism, and then against China, and so on and so forth. There's always someone they need to define themselves against. But for the longest time, and most successfully, it was against the red man as communism. Right? That went all the way up into 1989. That worked. So that was almost 30 years. Actually, even slightly more than that. After World War II. So for a long time, the communist threat gave America an excuse to pursue that kind of policy. But what Donald Trump is doing is going back to isolationism prior to World War II, prior to World War I, where America is really looking at itself, and it's fine. But at the same time, he's pursuing global. See, this is the thing, Dave. You can't have it both ways. I'm okay if you want to be an isolationist, right? In fact, I'd prefer America to be isolationist, because America would be in a better state if it didn't spend so much money outside of itself. And the biggest expenditure, of course, is military, right? If you've got the carrier fleets out in the world going around, trying to patrol the world's oceans, that costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's an arm and a leg. Every time, you see, this is the thing, the funny thing. During Operation Shock and Awe, I think it was the first Gulf War, whatever, they ran out of cruise missiles. Now, each cruise missile costs $1 million, right? And they shot thousands of them, so it's billions of dollars worth of ammunition, for example. And America has got bases everywhere. Now, these bases, they cost money. The soldiers need to be paid. I mean, the American army is huge. It's a massive, massive thing. And America's defense budget dwarfs every other nation. The next 10 countries combined don't spend as much on defense or in the military expenditure as the next 10 countries, as America. The next 10 countries don't come near it. And so there's a lot of money there. So do you need it? I mean, if you're an isolationist country, then you don't, right? But at the same time, while Trump wants to be isolationist and bring jobs back and do all kinds of things like tariffs, he also wants to play on the global stage. He wants to be peacemaker in the Middle East. The ideas he has are almost childish, naive, right? And he wants to make peace with his buddy Putin. He wants to elevate him, back to the stage. And the thing is this, right? He keeps saying, Ukraine should never have gone into that war, and it was a bad war. Please remember that Russia invaded the Ukraine. Okay, the Ukrainians didn't ask the Russians to start a war. Okay, so to say that the Ukrainians shouldn't have gone into this war is I don't even know what to call it, to be honest with you. It's just a completely asinine thing to say. And so, but it's there, right? And then now he wants to talk to Putin, America, and so why? If America is moving away from the global stage, why is Trump brokering a peace? Why is he trying to broker a peace in the Middle East? Right? So you can't have it both ways, because these activities, let's say Gaza is taken over by the states, for argument's sake, then you have to put boots on the ground, you have to do a whole bunch of stuff because no one else will. But figure that out, right? Someone has to pay for the rebuilding. If Trump wants to do it, it's America. There'll be hundreds of billions of dollars for that. You also need peacekeeping troops in the Ukraine, right? Again, let's say large American contingents probably. What is interesting, though, is this, Dave. You saw what the British want to do now, right? They're ready to put boots on the ground. Keir Starmer said this. we're ready to put troops into the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's I don't know if you guys realize this. That's a massive statement.
Yeah, that makes it a global war.
Yeah, it's huge.
Because it won't be the only side that does it then, right?
Yeah.
I know.
This, I mean, it's bad enough that the North Koreans were fighting. So, look, Putin got a lot of mercenaries out of Syria. He got mercenaries from Nepal, believe it or not, right? They're mercenaries. That's okay, right? I mean, that's not really having other nations fighting for you, right? Because these are individuals from Nepal, from Syria, from elsewhere that would go into Ukraine and fight for Putin, right? That's their individual decision. That's fine. But the deal with North Korea, that was a different thing. These North Koreans came in their own uniforms as North Koreans onto the battlefield, right? So for England or France or Germany or Poland, for the matter, to send in troops, it's a reasonable thing under the circumstances, and at this point, Dave, I like I love history, right? I love it, I really do, and I also like current affairs, and I like to understand what's going on, and I like to make educated guesses as to what's going to happen. But with this, I'll be honest with you, Dave, I have no idea. I don't know what is going to happen.
No, and like I said, that's why I'm trying to go to a low calorie popcorn, because there's so much going on, and it really has it's turned into something that I didn't think we would see. I really didn't think we'd be here talking all of this. I didn't. It's my problem. Obviously, I didn't open my eyes enough to be able to see it all and see it happening as it was trending towards where we're at. Yeah, you're right, Mickey. I'm going to take you back. So the rate cut today, 0.25 or 25 basis points, they call it.
That's pretty good.
Well, yeah. And do you know why? Did you notice any body language difference with the head of the RBA, that lady, the spokesperson?
Oh, sorry, I didn't actually see her. I didn't watch her do.
You have
what
to
what
see.
happened? Tell me what happened.
All right. So the last thing that they said in the final quarter of last year was, we're putting them on hold, but there's no chance that we're going to drop rates before the end of 2026. That's what they said. That was back then. Just so few months ago. It seems like a million years. Now, the last few sittings of Australian Parliament, they threw a bill in which was unopposed to control the RBA with a secondary board that wasn't interested in the day-to-day operations of the RBA, but was able to veto any decision they make, influencing their output. Now, I don't know about you. I know you, Mackie, but there's the listener. The private companies that are our central banks are meant to be separated from government in their design that we've been taught is the right thing, clearly, so that the government is in control of it. It's a third party, blah, 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 no influence. They voted for influence. Now, the body language difference between the assertiveness that we saw in December from the head of the RBA spokesperson to this time, with the head leaning, like forward leaning down, reading the statement, rather than proudly reading the statement because they'd made the decision.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
you think there was a bit of pressure?
I think they exercised that new power that they've got and forced the rate down because there's an election coming up in a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And the the graph that they showed on the news showed that the interest rates had returned just fine between 2 and 3% inflation rate. Perfect. It's in the sweet spot. That's what we wanted all along. And it shows almost a dead flat line, and then suddenly it's a Christmas tree of an angle that goes up at like 80 degrees, and then comes down at 80 degrees to today in the right spot, in the sweet spot. So we don't need interest rates anymore. Woo! Right? Let's bring them down. But the way that she delivered the information was just like the presser after Apollo 11 landed, with the three of them at that table being asked questions about humans, amazing adventure to the moon. Oh, did you see stars? I don't recall seeing any stars. Did you? What was it like? Oh, we were just doing things. That was the same. I saw the same. There was a parallel there, and I believe that all the numbers are fake anyway. It doesn't matter, because the last time she spoke, she said, "Oh, all the members of the WEF, all the central banks of those signed-on countries, we all talked about it, and the consensus was that we should leave the rates on hold." That was the last message that she said. And I paraphrased a little. This time, it was lowered 25 base. There wasn't any of that same, like I said, assertiveness there in her speech that she'd written the last time. This time, it was like she was reading a tear off from Reuters, like from the government. Yeah, so look, it's only me. It's my perception, and I might be wrong.
I think you've got a good point, and I'll tell you why. Because the thing is this, I think the observation is right on the money, my friend. Now, the election. This is an election year for us in Australia. There will be an election. Right? And there was no way in the universe that Albanese, our Prime Minister, would have gone
on the left,
wouldn't have gone into an election without a rate cut.
That's exactly right.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Now, he's got his rate cut.
Because none of the other things that they called them mandates, they were mandated to do all these things, they all failed.
Yeah. It wasn't a good story for him, but now, the cut. So I'm going to say it's going to be fairly soon. The election is going to be announced pretty soon. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen pretty soon. And we'll go to the ballot. In Australia, we have to vote, otherwise you have to pay a fine. So we'll all go and put our Sunday best on and go down to vote. That's not true. We get a democracy sausage. There's always a sausage. There's like a little barbecue.
Yes.
I love
it's only
those,
a single piece of bread, a single piece of white bread, and a cooked sausage, and the sauce and mustard, and onions or no onions. That's the choice. Like an American hot dog has more things than the hot dog and the bun on them. No, these are quite simple, and because they're sold at the voting booths, not as you're voting, but when you come out, there's usually a barbecue going on. We've called it. We've learnt to call it. It's indoctrinated into us now. These are democracy sausages.
That's correct. And you only get them if you come.
That's right. If you cast your vote, there you go.
And look, we have something similar when we go to our local hardware store like Bunnings. They actually tried to do it in America, Dave.
Yes, I know. I heard that. Yep.
Didn't work at all.
No, it doesn't work anywhere else.
Interesting, really, right? I thought it might, but no, sorry, can't have it, doesn't work, don't want to do it, etc., whatever. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so I think because there would have been enormous pressure.
Yes, 100%.
My opinion again, right? To give the voters money back, right? Having said that, though, and this is the truth as well, we are, from an inflation point of view, we're in a seemingly better position. If the number, look, can you trust these numbers? No, you cannot trust these numbers.
I don't trust any of the numbers.
Can't. it's just. I'd like to trust them, but I can't.
Because make it. All right. So, what stopped you? I've got an answer, but I wanted to ask you. What stopped you from trusting the numbers? Doesn't matter what the numbers are. If the government is saying numbers, when was it, or what was it that stopped you ever believing what they were saying?
Look, that's a good question. Okay, I've got friends who've been out of work for a long time. A number of friends.
Hello.
And applying for hundreds of jobs.
That's right.
Okay, which don't seem to be real for some reason.
Yes, that's right.
And
I can attest to that.
In Australia, you're taken off the unemployment numbers when you stop looking for work. When you stop looking, which happens soon enough if you're really disheartened, okay, they just take you off. You're no longer counted. So that falsely deflates unemployment. Okay, falsely deflates unemployment, meaning are going down.
Your unemployment status is determined by whether you're actively looking for work or not.
Correct. And I think it's complete nonsense. Okay, in Australia, it's just not realistic.
A part-time job that pays a tenth of what you need to survive is enough, because that's still employed.
Yep.
You might work one day a fortnight, and that's look, you're employed now. We can take you off the list. But then the government, Mickey, says, we created 1 million jobs last quarter. They didn't.
Yeah. So, to be clear, even a part-time job or a job that works 1 day a week is considered a new job.
That's
which
right.
is, of course, complete nonsense. Because, again, if you have a full-time job and you do well, and then you lose that job for whatever reason, and you go into a part-time job, it is not the same thing, guys and girls.
Right.
It's just not the same thing. It's, in fact, it is
going from skilled
much worse
to an unskilled job, going from full-time to part-time employment is not the same. None of those are one-to-one.
Yeah.
So Becky, so when was it? How old were you? Well, you weren't today old, right? But when was it, do you think? Like a decade, 2 decades ago?
When I stopped trusting politicians.
Yeah.
When I stopped trusting. That's a very good question, Dave.
When I went on to solid foods, who knows?
When I went into solid foods. Look, I was influenced to a large degree by my grandfather. Right, my grandfather was a very educated man, a very smart man. Had gone through the war, lost an arm, and he told me his stories. And from when I was very young, very, very young. And I would say I started distrusting authority before I had double digits.
Wow.
Because it didn't make any sense, right? And it's similar to you asking the wrong questions.
Yeah,
Except I was too shy. I would think the wrong questions. So I never got kicked out anywhere, right? Because I didn't ask him. I just asked him in my head. Because I was a very shy kid. I was very, very shy.
I was extremely shy.
And I didn't ask any questions like that. I just didn't. And but yeah, before double digits, I just didn't trust any of these people. And look,
so I was going to say my answer. So the numbers, there was a term used by our government that I learnt in my teens, double digits again, where they used the phrase seasonally adjusted. See, straight away, laughter, because that's what I did. I went, what does that mean? Does that mean that, well, it clearly means that they've been manipulated. It's what it means. So that's right. So every single year that school finishes for the 12th form, seniors in America, year 12, every single year at the time when they leave school, there should be an unemployment rise. It should be. It should be there. It should be. You should see it every year. You go, oh look, that's when school got out. That's when people decided they were going to look for work. And where were the jobs, right? But they didn't. They called it seasonally adjusted, and you can't tell on the graph when suddenly you've got hundreds of thousands of people entering the workforce for the first time and not being able to find any work. It's almost flat. It's flat across the whole year. We just have this background noise. Seasonally adjusted could be a 5-year average. Right, that's it. It's just the mean. It's the mean 5-year mean of unemployment, because there's no spikes. You don't see any spikes. Where are the spikes? Oh, when I got that email that said, I'm sorry, but you thanks for sending your resume in, but you didn't get the job. We received a high number, and then they put in brackets 900 other applicants for the same role. That's not an experience I've ever had in Australia.
I have to say that number is staggering.
Yes.
Because
and thinking about the industry that I'm applying for.
Yeah. That's it's a very specific job that Dave is
Are all the enterprise architects all let go? Right.
Well,
that's a good
if
question.
you think about it for a second, I mean, Telstra and the consultancy houses and others, they let go a lot of people.
Oh yeah, they did.
Right? I mean, a lot of people.
Who even needs what even is that role? Says someone at the top. We can just get rid of them, surely, right? They don't even do anything.
Yeah. Look,
and so they're all gone. And some of us are in a group talking to each other, but it's crazy. But I think I think budgets have now come in, and there is I've had about 5 calls recently. For work, even though this is like a personal thing, right? I'm telling a story here, and I think that there might be a turnaround now. Already, even before the rate cut today. Do you know what I mean? So, if the economy is looking a little better, and there is a little bit more interest in business, and the clients are willing to spend a little bit more money, then there's going to be more work out there for everybody. Until, of course, there's a robot that only costs $30,000 a year and self-charges and works pretty much, non-stop. Then none of us have a job. I love the AI, by the way, Mickey, and the leaders. I love all the leaders and all the AIs.
Yeah, I don't love them anymore. Come and get me. I'm ready for you. No, that's not true. I'm not ready for you, but you can come anyway.
No.
No, but look, it is disheartening to look at the state of our job market, right? And try to do something meaningful there. It's a real issue, in my opinion, right?
It got really bad for a while. Now, in your open, you were talking about the US and I know that the people that have been let go from the government get a 6-month payout with benefits, so at least there's a delay of 6 months for there to be any financial repercussions, like direct financial repercussions. I don't want the same thing that's happened to me to happen to anyone else, and I know that it's very hard to be employed if you've been employed, for your entire life within government. The only other place to get another job is in government. It's very tough, and I don't envy any of those people. We could be cheering in the streets for the amount of money that might be saved. That's great, but think about what it means.
But see, there are 2 things to consider. Number one, you're now taking people out of the economy.
That's right.
2, where does this money go? The money that's saved, where does it go? What is it going to put any programs that are helping you?
No new programs. No, it'll just be paying for the things they should have been paying for before.
Well, they're paying for the tax cuts for the super rich is what they're paying for. That's what it is. That's where it's going to go.
At the moment, it's only $360 per person for the US. population. That's how much they reckon they've saved so far.
Yeah, but the person, and that's
Doesn't get the money.
It's money.
That's right.
No, that's if it's 365 per person, it's about $1 billion. They've said.
There you go. Hey, we've only got a minute left. You can do the exit.
Jeez. Okay. That was quick. Look, hey, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Hopefully the chat room is okay being quiet today. That's okay. Don't go anywhere. The station is going to come up with something awesome. But do be critical. Don't just follow the other sheep. Be critical. Be independent. Don't be Democrat. Don't be Republican. Be your own person. Be your own thinker. Right? Especially in America. Just work it out for yourself. But yeah, so look, this has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for your time. Don't go anywhere. Something else is going to come on. But Dave, most importantly,
be safe.